Good morning. It is Anika from Living for Later, and I just want to jump on really quickly to just share from the thought. It's not that complicated. Just get in his presence. What am I talking about? So I've been going back and forth between the book of Matthew and the book of Acts, and honestly, I'm just like so stirred because I just see so many signs and wonders and miracles demonstrated in these books. And I think that sometimes as believers, we can make it seem like it's just such a lofty thing. The idea of raising the dead, the idea of blind eyes being opened, the idea of restoration of families and those that are distant from God coming to know him in such a real way. Sometimes we can think that these are just lofty ideas and we leave them stuck on the pages of the Bible. We think, oh, well, that was back then. And we can sometimes even make the manifestation of the power of God into a complicated thing. But I see a consistent theme both in the book of Matthew and in the book of Acts that the power came when the people were in the presence of God. They got into his presence, they prayed, they sought his face, they were on one accord. And when they came out of his presence, when they came from being charged up, they were able to go out and just do great signs and wonders and miracles. It was just amazing. They had just boldness that was just mind-blowing. And I think that sometimes we can complicate it because we want to tell people, oh, for the power of God to manifest, you got to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. But it's really not that complicated. It's about getting into the presence of the one that gives you the power. I don't have to work anything up in my own strength. All I have to do is find myself constantly going to the source, being recharged. And let me tell you, I am just really recognizing more and more the power of prayer. We as saints of God cannot be dismissive of prayer. We can't allow the enemy to come in and distract us and keep us away from prayer. This is where we get charged up. If you are wondering, how can I stay in the place of just having peace in the midst of the storm? It's not that complicated. Get into his presence. If you are wondering, how can I stay in a place of not being conformed to this world and not being swallowed up by the culture? It's not that complicated. Get into his presence. If you are wondering, how can I demonstrate love and show love to my enemy and to that person that just works my everlasting nerve? It's not that complicated. Get into his presence. Oftentimes we want the result, but we don't want to put in the time that it takes to get the result. Do you hear me? Like, we understand this as a natural thing. If we want to lose weight, we put in working out, we watch what we eat, and then we don't make that same connection spiritually. We want power, we want peace, we want to walk in love, we want to be Christ-like, but then we don't want to put in the work of getting into his presence. We make all types of excuses, and I don't mean to sound like I'm scolding people, but it's just more to encourage us as saints of God to recognize that, listen, God is calling us into his presence so that he can download into us, that he can make us look and talk and act more like him. And there's no way around it. We must make prayer a commitment. Don't let things pull you away from prayer. I'm telling you, it's nothing should come in the way. We shouldn't allow anything to come in the way of us seeking the face of the Father. And listen, this is not a one-time thing. This is a continuous thing. You don't charge your phone once and expect it to go for the rest of the week. You have to bring it back and plug it into the power source. Well, it's the same thing with us. So I just want to encourage you that sometimes we leave things on the table that God has for us. Sometimes we don't see the manifestation of his power and his presence. And that's because we're not taking the time to really get into his presence. We make all type of excuses. So I just want to encourage you today, if prayer has not been a priority for you, and of course, I see it as a double thing, right? Prayer and getting into his word, right? That's a combination thing. So I just want to encourage you, if you have been distracted, to really just ask the Lord to help you to refocus and find yourself getting into his presence. All right, you be blessed.